Today I will tell you a story of Defold with its ups and downs, leading it to a place where it is now, as a proven and reliable solution for game developers. A story from a perspective of a dev watching it all from outside and just researching some interviews and blog posts. So for the record, it shouldn't end up on Wikipedia. Fun fact is that actually when I was writing this story, an article on Wikipedia of Defold was created by its community and it is now published. We are traveling back in time to some unknown point and place in Sweden, where Defold started forming. Nomen omen twofold, in two heads working on their own game engines as a hobby project, and didn't even realize about each other's shenanigans. Let's call those two guys Ragnar and Christian. Imagine they were not Vikings, but actually pretty skilled developers with a vast experience in the industry. They were working at Avalanche Studios, a Swedish studio best known from the Just Cause game series, but after hours Ragnar and Christian were developing their own engines to the point in time when they finally met up and decided to merge their side hustles and work on one engine together instead. It wasn't even called Defold back then, therefore such history is a repeating scheme, resonating with other projects like for example Godot. If you dig deeper, you will stumble upon an enigmatic DM engine name, which after digging even deeper stands for Dynamo Engine or something like that. Since the very beginning, performance, scalability and reliability were core values for it, but also the ability to efficiently create games, so minimizing waiting time and maximizing creativity by giving results of your actions as soon as possible for you to experience. Hence, hot reloading, fast build times and integrated automation were put on the to-do list. It was also designed to be a cross-platform and out-of-the-box solution, therefore you can build on Defold's build server without touching anything, or on your own if you want to. The two devs betting it all on Defold couldn't really allow mistakes, spending time making bug fixes or rewriting the code, so they actually spent more time in Google Docs than coding, designing the solution really carefully. Ragnar's memories of those whole times are written down and worth reading. They dedicated more and more time to it, and finally it became a full-time business. You notice Defold was being created in the lovely borders of Sweden all the time, so it is no surprise that it was noticed by another big Swedish studio, King, creators of an invincible Candy Crush that I bet not only my aunt is still playing, and many other successful mobile games. In 2014, King acquired Ragnar's and Christian's IP, together with them I believe, because they continued to work on it in the kingdom. King Company put the wind in Defold sails. Stable cash income from a giant owner allowed it to involve more developers, but also graphic designers, evangelists, and a whole marketing background for it to develop vastly in just a couple of years, while still keeping up to its roots. The core team was the biggest at those times. It was used by King in-house to create several mobile games, from which especially Blossom Blast or Pet Rescue Puzzle Saga gained bigger attention from players. During Game Developers Conference 2016, King opened up Defold publicly as a free game engine to be used by developers around the world. Obviously, because of the company's interest targeted mainly for mobile and web developers, King's CTO Thomas Hartwig presented it to the world as a cross-platform solution perfect for indie developers and small teams. Many developers, including me, started to use it as a great, easy-to-learn and free solution. As a student, being free was the main point on the decision chart, but I stayed with Defold for other reasons. At that time, Defold was updated every 2 weeks, reliably fixing all the issues and bugs if any slipped through, and keeping backward compatibility. In the meanwhile, a second, written from scratch version of the Defold editor was created, this time with a dark theme. Fun fact is that now you can make your own theme for Defold using just CSS. It was then totally free to use with no upfront costs and fees nor royalties, but by default proposed its own version control, analytics and automation hosting instead of GitHub or so. It was very convenient obviously, but some may have been feeling insecure about it. Defold is obviously no longer demanding having an account at King, and you can freely deploy on GitHub or GitLab, but that's a bit of a spoiler of my beautiful story. So skip fast forward to the year 2020, where Defold was moved by King to its very own Defold Foundation, leaving King as an entity and publishing its source code freely online. King donated a generous unknown amount of money to the foundation, making it a stable business for the dedicated developers of Defold and founders of the foundation, Bjorn and Matthias, who were working on it in King and literally once said they would rather make everything to release Defold source code online for free than allow it to be killed by any corporate maneuvers. And so they did. Defold's amazingly humble yet so talented, helpful and friendly community is supporting it nowadays not only with donations but mainly with free open source projects, assets, examples and tutorials. Since then they gathered way more than one corporate partnership with Heroic Lab, Malsoft, Rife and so on, and managed to create a sustainable business basing on them, while making a free, solid and reliable product for developers. As time flew, the team evolved, but the core values and strong, well-defined foundations were so rooted into Defold philosophy that the team, even without Ragnar and Christian, but with other amazingly talented and smart developers, is still profoundly continuing the very same approach to developing it. Therefore, from the ground up, Defold is a solid, reliable and well-thought product, and it stays like this up to date. Today there are 6 developers in the Defold team, and they are all together, regardless of conditions, able to deliver each consecutive month a new version of Defold with new features, stability work, cross-platform maintenance and bug fixes. Really, many times after reporting a problem, a fix was available even in minutes since they answered. Defold team is engaged into its community with a worth noting commitment, guiding experienced developers and helping beginners with even the most dumb questions alike. Their proven dedication to the foundation values and a clear, concise vision for Defold, mixed with its reliability and performance, is making Defold a wise choice for professional and independent game developers that I could wholeheartedly recommend, as you can clearly see from the way I'm telling this story.